JJ the CPA here. Hope you're doing well. Welcome to the Inspire podcast. This is exactly what we want to do. We want to inspire you. And we're talking about the CPA industry global. We have got some special guests that we're going to have along the way. We've got Jitendra with us today from India, but my co-host here, Anshul, who is really going to be a force behind some of the big plans that we've got coming up. Anshul, how are you today?
I'm good, JJ. As good as I can be. It's amazing to be here. It's amazing to work with you on your entire journey because I do believe the CPA profession going global is one of the best things that could have happened to the profession.
Absolutely.
Jitendra, thank you so much for being coming back on the show. For our audience, Jitendra Lakhwani is the co-founder of a recruiting agency in India. He's based in Ahmedabad. It's a city in the western part of India. The name of his company is Mantras to Success. And as we mentioned, we want to bring in guests that you will actually work with if you decide to go hire in India. So if you were to hire people, regardless of what industry, Jitendra is the person I'm going to introduce you to. So Jitendra, thank you and welcome.
Thank you, Anshul. Thank you, JJ. JJ, you radiate such a brilliant amount of energy. I can feel it here sitting in India. And I'm so inspired by you, by your work, the kind of work you're doing. And I'm sure you've been a great friend. And it's always pleasure to meet you again. Let's hope we meet soon when you guys are traveling to India later this part of the year. And we can meet in person and do this podcast sitting together and having a sip of a masala tea.
I
Yeah,
love it.
we're looking forward to our trip. We're still planning to come towards the end of the year. We're looking to
Yeah.
meet a lot of people in India and would love to do an in-person podcast. That would be
Yes,
so
yes,
much
yes.
fun.
JJ, I will
Absolutely.
make you drink. Yeah, JJ, I will make you drink one special masala tea, which is the local beverage that we drink here. It's on par with coffee.
Okay. I love it.
Yeah.
I appreciate that. I
Okay.
appreciate the upcoming hospitality. I know you're going to be a big part of all of that. In our last episode, we covered some really interesting issues. And so if you missed that, check out the link to basically see the first time that we had Jitendra on with us. And with that, we covered some of the things that really are a misconception. We talked about working conditions. What are the concerns of U.S. companies? And really got my eyes open to how much demand there is. We talked about really how much India is, I use the word dictating, but has become extremely competitive in helping the world, not just the U.S., in accounting needs. And so it was a very exciting episode. Today, we want to talk about the next issues that kind of come to mind. And the first thing is some simple one, which is tell us about the time difference. I know that there's that mindset of that you all are basically on an opposite time zone as us. How do US companies work with that?
Yeah. No. So what we do is generally, depending on which kind of time zone you are sitting in the US, a lot of companies they overlap in terms of timings. So when the in the morning in the US, when the US office comes into the office, the office here in India extends to till late night here in India, so that they get 3 to 4 hours of overlap of working together. Similarly, in the morning as well, a lot of companies they log in a bit early here in the morning so that they are able to catch up with the shift ending during the US time. Again, depending on the time zones, we do this. If there is a time zone is not much. So for example, a lot of companies do Australian accounting as well. So people tend to Australia is 4.5 hours with us, their time difference. So a lot of people they log in early in the morning at 5 a.m. or 4:30 a.m. also they log in. So depending on the time zone, they either try to overlap during the working schedules or they try to match the working patterns exactly as they are.
So,
Yeah. And yes, go ahead. Sorry.
yeah, so I want to add something to that, right? So I think the way I recommend people take advantage of time zone is during non-busy season, right? You guys have three now, but yeah, during non-busy time, 2 to 3 hours of overlap, right? That's what people should aim for. Because if you ask people to work overnight shifts, that's called the graveyard shift, you're not going to get the best talent. It's going to be it's not going to be as productive. But that's something to aim for. And during busy season, you can get up to 5 hours of overlap. And if you talk specifically about India, I think culturally people are okay staying late. Having them come in early in the morning, that's more of a challenge. So a lot of firms, a lot of people who work for US accounting firms, they'll start their day around noon and they'll work till 9 or 10. So
Yeah.
that's usually how it works. I still feel, JD, let me ask you, do you feel like accounting firms are like, all right, we have this time difference and we're just going to give work in the evening and it'll be done in the morning without any effort from our part? Do you think that's like the prevalent, I don't know, wisdom, or you know what I mean? Do you think
Yeah.
that's how people are thinking in the US?
If somebody's not really considering how the workflow would go, they would probably see it as an inconvenience. But when you pause, and some of the businesses that CPA firms that I've talked with, they said, actually, it's quite the advantage because most of the work that comes in, it comes in on a particular day, but then it's not going to be till the next US day that it gets started. But work that comes in today could then be immediately started, if you will, by the team that would be in India as an example. And then when the US team arrived the next day, it's already been prepared if we're talking about for tax preparation. And also when you have a CPA firm like myself, it gets prepared and then I'm reviewing it, right? And so now if I'm reviewing it, then it's going to get changed the next US day. However, if I'm able to review it as I come in, so if it arrived yesterday, it got worked overnight, I'm now reviewing it the next day. And then that night it's getting updated. Basically, you've basically cut the time in half from when it arrives to then potentially when it's ready for the client. Great question on that. I hadn't really thought about it that way, Anshul, but great concept.
Thanks. I would like to add one more thing here. During the busy season, I've seen a lot of clients. Once the busy season gets over, they threw a big party here in India. They all went for a big celebration. So later I came to know that during the busy tax season, even the Indian teams were stretching up to 2 a.m., 3 a.m., 4 a.m. to help the US counterparts close the filings as soon as possible because they had the right KPIs and KRAs and right expectations set. So I'm not advocating that no, the Indian team should stay till 2 a.m., 3 a.m. But if the need arises, the Indian teams, if met clearly with clear expectations, they don't shy away from going that extra mile to help the US firms reach their milestones. So I just wanted to make this point very clear.
Well, one of the things that Anshul, you and I talked about when we met in New York, and I think we met for 9 hours straight, just talking about the future of the CPA profession and our enthusiasm for being a part of this process and helping get more information out there for those to really make their own decisions. But there really is, in my personal experience, that I'm going to just call it the way it used to be when my grandfather was doing taxes, in my opinion, or his oldest son. So I'm a third generation CPA. My grandfather became a CPA back in 1954. And this last tax season, our family celebrated 71 consecutive tax seasons in serving clients in saving taxes. My grandfather's oldest son was a CPA. I'm a CPA. My son is on his way to become a CPA. So this is a true family tradition. And one of the reasons this is near and dear to try and ensure that the CPA designation stays relevant is that I want it to be that when my family hits the 100-year mark, 29 years from now, when my son's my age, that CPA still has that respect. And what I'm saying is I have found that those that are in India have that pride, personal pride in their work, regardless of glory, regardless of compliment, regardless of compensation. And I don't want to necessarily say we don't have that in the US, but we do know that because we have CPAs and this workforce is overworked. Some would say that needs to be compensated more. There's definitely more work than there are those that can handle it. It's probably no wonder that you have an overworked staff in the US that it's then probably hard to get excited about it. And so what I'm saying is it really has been refreshing, and it just reminds me of what I used to know when I started in this business 33 years ago. And that kind of leads me to my next thing, Jitendra, is when we're talking about those that are coming to you from the US and they're wanting you to fill needs, what type of work is really being requested? Number one. Number two, how are you ensuring that you have retention of your staff, of your team, because obviously when a US company, CPA firm, if they have a need just like any other business, they don't want to have turnover. And so talk about that retention process and what are the things that has to happen in India that maybe we wouldn't think isn't necessarily the case.
So to answer your first question, what kind of work is being demanded here? So it starts with a basic position such as a bookkeeper, and it goes the full spectrum. Your tax audit, tax reviewer, tax preparer, audit reviewer, audit preparer, the evaluation guide, the full spectrum of it, right? The certificate assigned CPA. So the entire spectrum of work gets demanded here in India. Uh, to answer your second part of question, how do we retain talent in India? In my opinion, the retainment is a function of four things. One is growth. So you have a good performance management system in place, which ensures that the kind of work that the particular Indian resource is putting up. So he's being compensated equally in terms of growth, not necessarily in terms of monetary growth. Monetary growth is of course a part of it, but then you give them equal chances to grow intellectually, increase the capability. That is one part to growth. Then trainings. So you encourage them to take more and more new skill set trainings, get themselves, trained to a lot of new skill sets. For example, AI is coming, so you give them the opportunity to get themselves trained in AI, whatever courses are there. Then third is bring the culture at par with the US. So don't treat India as a different land, but whatever cultural practices you have in the US, bring in the same cultural practices in India. Of course, thrown with amount of localization for the local festivals and all those things. And then fourth is the security. When I talk about security, we talk about mental well-being, emotional well-being, do some programs that encourage people to take care of themselves, because if they are happy at the end of the day, will also keep the firm happy, the customers happy. So the retention is a function of these four things: growth, trainings, security, and good culture, right? So if you get these four places in, I think it's as easy to retain employees as anywhere else in the world. So India is nothing new. It's the just basic needs of an employee. The Maslow's hierarchy, if you follow it correctly, people would stay. And also, I'll also add, not everybody is looking to hop jobs every 2 year around. It's just that people don't feel either enough valued, or they feel that the growth opportunities have been saturated in their current employment. That's and only when they look out for some other opportunities. But they're in short, proper growth, proper KPIs, KRAs, and the ladder, the organization. I'm sure they are more than happy to stay and contribute in a very meaningful way. Very meaningful way.
That's very interesting. So JJ, turnover in India looks very different than it does in the US, right? There's competition for talent in India, so we're seeing turnover rate do creep up then to a place where it's getting slightly uncomfortable. But what happens in the US is when somebody leaves, right, especially right now, that position is vacant for a month. That's not how it works in India, right? The moment somebody leaves, just as quickly you can bring somebody else on. So the challenge is really onboarding that, all right, we spent so much time training this person. Now they've left. Now we're going to have to put in a lot of effort. So Jitendra already covered a lot of things that we need to do to retain people. I think a couple other things we need to do or we can focus on is first attracting the right kind of candidate, because PE money has it's made inroads all the way to India as well. Because a lot of bigger firms,
Big time,
right?
big time,
Yeah,
big time.
not
Yeah,
with
PE money is flowing
a
in.
lot of bigger firms. Yeah, you're right. A lot of big
Yep,
firms
yep,
that have taken money, they've
yes,
come to India and
yep,
they're
yep.
now just splurging, right? They just want to build a team of 100. So they're paying above market rates, 20%, 30%. There's a lot of talent in India who want that. They want that team to grow from 10 to 100 in a year. Now, imagine like saying to an accounting firm that you can go from 10 to 100 in a year. That's almost impossible in the US, but it's happening in India almost every day.
Absolutely,
Right.
absolutely.
So we need to attract the right kind of person. If you are that PE backed CPA firm and you are looking to grow that fast, then you need to make sure that in your job description, in your interviews, you bring that out. But then there are family legacy firms like yours that are smaller, that have been around for a while, that'll stay around for a while. Then we need to just make sure that we highlight the benefits of working for a firm like that. and attract the candidates that are looking for those things. Because if you end up attracting a PE type candidate, they'll leave. So it's a bit of that. It's understanding that it's really about onboarding. So we have our onboarding processes correct and right and robust, and then attracting the right candidate. I know that kind of scares a lot of US CPA firms because that's not how turnover works in the US, but just my 2 cents.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and in the same way, I want to say I was surprised, but I wanted to get your take, Jitendra, on how the government in India looks out for the employee. I would say it depends on the state that you live in. Over here in the USA, there are some states here that are way protective of employees as it relates to minimum wage as well as time off, etc. And I was pleasantly surprised only because I never really thought about it, but I almost get the sense that the government in India does a more complete overall for the entire country, a little bit step up in terms of ensuring that employees are well looked after with mandatory time off. It seems like there's more holidays, benefits, but fill me in, enlighten us related to what the government requires of employers in India.
Sure. The topic of labor here is more of a centralized one. Of course, you have state governments as well. So we have a certain compliances, like we have a employee state insurance corporation, then we have a provident fund organization. So you have to do such kind of compliances. Apart from that, yes, we do have a mandatory amount of holidays to be given. Then there are certain other guidelines relating to working conditions. All those has to be fulfilled. Yeah, so the government on its part is doing a bit to ensure that the employees are well looked after. But I would say it's not much of a major compliance burden as such. It's very easy to fulfill. It's very reasonable. And yeah, as the things progress, the compliances and all those things, the government is trying its bit to make it simplified as far as from the legal or compliant or filing perspective is required. But there's nothing major as such that becomes a extra additional cost to the employer or additional challenge to the employer. No, it's not like that. You have to follow certain compliances, but they are very well reasonable and within the limits, so as to not to be an extra burden for the employer. It's just a matter of simplifying things. And yes, the government it does take care of employees. That's what I'd like to say.
Yeah, I think India is a very employee friendly country.
Yeah,
US
but
is very employer friendly. And yes,
yeah,
some states more so than others, but
but
generally speaking, India is more
yeah.
employee friendly.
Yeah. One more point. When it comes to blue collar hiring, so in blue collar, the rules and regulations are a bit more strict because those cadre of people are not much educated. They are more of hands-on technicians, assembly line workers, or electricians, plumbers. So the rules and regulations concerning those class of people or employees, they are a bit stringent. But when I talk about white collar workers, people like professionals, CPAs, software engineers, essentially the white collar labor, the rules are a bit relaxed and comes when it's compared to the blue collar workers. So for the class of people that we are talking about, nothing much significant where it becomes an additional compliance or burden for the employer.
Very good point. So, Jitendra, I have a question, right? What, so India is a big country, right? If
Yeah,
I'm a
yeah.
CPA firm or any firm that's looking to do something in India, right? Where can we look at, right? I know there are the big cities, but are there also smaller tier two, tier three cities that are more of hidden gems? Like, I want JJ to hear that from you, that to tell us more about the landscape and like what you recommend.
Sure. Usually in India, cities like Bangalore, Hyderabad, Mumbai, New Delhi, they get all the limelight. But then cities like Ahmedabad, where I sit out of, or then Indore, Jaipur, Vizag, these are tier 2 towns, which are absolutely right up there competing with the metros. And they have good talents and skill set availability in tier 2 towns. You will be surprised to know that a lot of metros are built on the skill set that migrates from these tier 2 towns to tier 1 metros, right? So if there are enough good opportunities in these tier 2 towns, a lot of people who are currently staying in metros would like to come back to their hometowns in tier 2 cities and work out from there. Ahmedabad is a great place to find foreign CPAs. Indore, Jaipur, but Ahmedabad beats the chart. Also because Ahmedabad, as in traditional CA in India, CA practice has more CAs than Mumbai, that is commercial capital, and New Delhi, that is the political capital. So a lot of work from Delhi and Mumbai is also, outsourced to Ahmedabad within India to be done. So as a result, there's already a natural talent pool available in terms of accounting, and that naturally carries over for CPA firms. Ahmedabad is the big strategic hub for talent availability when it comes to foreign accounting. But we can look at other parts like Indore, Jaipur, but I would not recommend them as high as Ahmedabad. Ahmedabad is up one, no, number one, competing with Mumbai and other big metros.
That makes sense. Yeah. Any follow-up questions from you, JJ, on that?
Nope.
Awesome.
Yeah.
So I think we have reached the end of our time. Once again, Jitendra, thank you so much for
Thank you. Thank you.
coming on the show, sharing all these insights, being fully candid. We sincerely appreciate. To the audience,
Thank you so
we
much.
hope this was
Yeah.
helpful for you. This was the second part of our interview with Jitendra. There's a link if you want to watch the first part if you haven't done that. I highly recommend you do that if you're looking at offshoring. There's some great tips that he's shared. And thank you so much from my side and my co-host JJ. JJ, again, thank you so much for getting this started. Thank you so much for keeping this going. I couldn't have done this without you.
Thank you.
My feeling is likewise, my friend. I'm very excited, Jitendra, to be able to meet you in person later this year and those that you are working with. You definitely gave me some great insights. And I think what we're trying to do here, we are doing just that, which is to inspire this industry and to close the gap as this becomes much more of a global workforce. And so with that, we thank you for tuning in. Definitely check
Thank
out
you.
our other episodes. Yes. So thank you for that, my friend.
Thank you.
All
Thank you,
right.
JJ.
Thank
Thank you,
you.
Anshul. Thank you.